Welcome to a video on disrupting food webs. Now we need to understand what will happen to the populations of organisms if one particular organism within a food web becomes extinct. So when I say population, what I mean is the number of that particular species. So we can talk about the population of foxes, the population of mice, the population of snails, the population of rabbits, and the population of grass. That is distinct from a community, which refers to all of the organisms in total. So, what would happen to the populations of other organisms if the snail became extinct? So if we remove the snail from the food web, what would happen to the population of grass, mice, rabbits, and foxes? Now, it's very difficult to predict, but we can make certain leaps to work out what would happen. So if we remove snails, then the amount of grass being eaten should be less. Now, if that's the case, that means the population of grass will increase. What I've done here is I've given green to represent an increase in population and pink to represent a decrease, or in this case, an extinction. So if the amount of grass increases, so the population of grass increases, what would then happen to the population of rabbits? Well, we could then say that the population of rabbits, since there's now more grass for them to eat, that population would also increase. So we now notice that with the elimination of snails, if snails became extinct, the population of grass would increase and the population of rabbits would increase. However, this is where it starts to get a little more tricky. Mice rely on both the snails and the grass, but there's a decrease in snails, in other words, none, they're extinct, and there's an increase in grass. So we now have the question, what would happen to the number of mice, the population of mice? It's a little unclear. What we could say is that the population of mice would decrease because the snails are now extinct and they have less food to eat. Or we could say that the population of mice would increase because there's now more grass to eat. Or we could say that the population of mice will remain the same because even though there's less snails, there are now more grass. So, in a particular case like this, it doesn't matter which answer you choose, so long as you justify why. You must give a reason. So let's say I'm going to go with the population of mice stays the same. Now, if that's the case, we now have the same population of mice, but we now have a greater population of rabbits. Therefore, what would happen to the population of foxes? Well, in this particular case, the population of foxes would increase. They have a larger food supply.